Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Dave's Spooky Stories. I'm your host, Dave, and tonight we have just a collection of scary stories. No particular theme, with no special effects or loud, sudden noises, so relax and enjoy. Please like and subscribe, comment below, all the usual stuff. Thank you. Story number 1. The Church. I'd been driving for hours. No destination, just the need to move. The kind of drive where the road becomes a ribbon of thought, unraveling behind you. I had the windows down, the air cool and dry, and the stereo tuned to a bluegrass station out of Kentucky. The signal was faint, but the harmonies were clear, high and lonesome, voices braided together like old rope. Every song was about death, train wrecks, drownings, lovers buried in shallow graves, but they sang it sweet, like grief was just another kind of beauty. The pavement gave way to gravel without warning. I didn't slow down. The tires kicked up dust and the stones rattled like bones beneath me. The sun was low, bleeding orange across the horizon. I passed a field of dry corn stalks, their husks whispering in the wind. Then the first church appeared. It was small, whitewashed once, but now peeling, the steeple leaning like it had given up. A cemetery hugged its side, crooked headstones jutting from the earth like broken teeth. I barely registered it before it was behind me. Then another. Same church, same cemetery, or maybe not. The road curved, dipped, rose again. The gravel turned to hard-packed dirt, rutted and dry. The bluegrass kept playing, Little Sadie, Oh Me Wise, Banks of the Ohio, Dig a Hole in the Meadow, murder ballads sung like lullabies. I passed the church again. This time I slowed down. The windows were still down, and I could hear something. Maybe wind, maybe singing. I looked at the headstones. No names I recognized, but they felt familiar, like I'd seen them in a dream or a story someone told me long ago. I kept driving. The road narrowed. Trees leaned in from both sides, their branches clawing at the sky. The music crackled, then came back stronger. A trio now, harmonizing about a miner crushed in a cave-in. I felt it in my chest. Not sadness, not fear. Just wait. The church appeared again. I stopped this time. Got out. The dirt crunched under my boots. The air smelled like dry leaves and old stones. I walked to the gate of the cemetery. It was rusted, hanging by one hinge. I stepped through. The headstones were older than they had any right to be. Names carved deep. Dates worn smooth. I saw one with my last name. Another with my mother's. I kept walking. The church door was ajar. I pushed it open. Inside, pews sat crooked, some missing slats. A pulpit leaned forward like it was whispering secrets. On the wall behind it, a faded mural of angels, faces serene, eyes closed. I sat in the front pew. The music was still playing, but now it sounded like it was coming from inside the church. No speakers, no wires, just voices. I sat there for a long time. Eventually, I stood up and walked back to the car. The road was still there, but it looked different, softer, less certain. I didn't know if I was lost. I didn't know if I'd ever been found. I turned the key. The engine started. The music came back. Will the Circle Be Unbroken played. I pulled onto the road, dust rising behind me like smoke. Maybe I was lost. Or maybe I just remembered something I wasn't supposed to forget. Story number 2. Trick or treat. Halloween in the 1970s had teeth. It wasn't curated or sanitized. It was a night when kids ruled the streets, armed with plastic pumpkins and sugar-fueled bravado. No parents hovered. No one tracked us. We were free range, feral, and proud of it. I was 10, dressed as Dracula in a cape that smelled like mothballs and regret. Kenny was a cowboy with a busted cap gun, and Troy was a robot made of duct tape, cardboard, and blinking Christmas lights. We were a trio of misfits, high on mini Snickers and the thrill of being out after dark. The air was crisp and made your breath puff out like smoke. Leaves skittered across the pavement, dry and whispering. Front porch lights glowed orange, casting warm halos on the sidewalk. Jack-o'-lanterns grinned from their stoops, their jagged mouths flickering with candlelight. Some houses had speakers playing spooky soundtracks. Chains rattling, wolves howling, witches cackling, groans. It was glorious. We hit every house on the street, then turned onto Sycamore Ave, where things got quieter. The decorations thinned out. The street lamps were spaced wider, leaving long stretches of darkness between their pools of light. The houses here were older, set back behind hedges and leaf-choked lawns. That's when we saw them. A group of older kids, 5 or 6 of them, standing under a porch light halfway down the block. No costumes, just jeans, hoodies, and that slow, deliberate posture that made your stomach tighten. One of them had something slung over his shoulder, a bat, a stick, hard to tell. They didn't say anything, just watched us. Then, one by one, they slipped behind a tall hedge near the McAllister place and vanished. Kenny stopped walking. "Let's cross the street," he muttered. Troy scoffed. "They're just trying to scare us." I didn't say anything. My heart was thudding like a drum. But I kept walking, because that's what you did. You didn't show fear. Not on Halloween. We reached the hedge. It loomed like a wall, tall and tangled, the kind that hadn't been trimmed since Nixon was in office. The sidewalk narrowed here, squeezed between the hedge and the street. The nearest lamp was a good 20 feet away, leaving this stretch in near total darkness. I stepped into the shadow. A hand shot out, fast, and yanked my pumpkin bucket clean out of my grip. I barely had time to yell before I was shoved hard, landing on my side in the cold grass. Candy scattered like confetti. I heard Kenny shout, then Troy. Figures burst from the hedge, grabbing, laughing, running. One of them kicked Troy's robot box, sending it spinning. Another snatched Kenny's pillowcase and took off down the street. It was chaos, a blur of denim and sneakers and the sound of plastic cracking. By the time we scrambled to our feet, they were gone. Just the rustle of leaves and the distant bark of a dog. My pumpkin was split. My loot was gone. Kenny's pillowcase was empty. And Troy had a single Tootsie Roll left, clenching in his fist. We didn't cry. We just stood there, breathing hard, staring down the block like maybe they'd come back, like maybe we'd get a second chance to fight or run faster. But they didn't, and we didn't. We walked home in silence, the thrill of the night replaced by something colder, something that stayed with me long after the candy was gone. As we passed the brighter houses again, the jack-o'-lanterns didn't look so friendly. Their grins seemed sharper, their eyes more menacing. The orange porch lights cast longer shadows. It felt like fingers reaching for us. Somewhere a speaker played a witch's laugh, and it sounded too real. When I got home, my mom asked how it went. I said, "Fine," and went straight to my room. I dumped what was left of my candy on the bed and stared at it. A crushed Milky Way, a few loose candy corns. I didn't eat any of it. That night I lay in bed listening to the wind rattle the windows and the occasional burst of laughter from kids still out on the street. I thought about the older boys, about the way they moved, the way they vanished into the hedge like ghosts. I thought about how fast it all happened, how helpless I'd felt. But here's the thing. It was the 70s. Getting mugged on Halloween was just a part of growing up. Like getting your fingers pinched in rusty playground equipment. Like wiping out on a skateboard with no helmet, no pads, and no sympathy. Like riding in the back of a station wagon with no seatbelts, eating pixie sticks, and breathing secondhand smoke. We didn't call it trauma. We called it Tuesday. And next year, we went out again. Different costumes, same streets, a little wiser, a little faster, still no parents. Because that's how it was. And honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Story number 3. The Lucerne. I used to ride shotgun with Ray all the time. He drove like he meant it. Elbows loose, eyes sharp, always a half second ahead of the road. You could feel it in the way he merged, the way he braked, confident, clean. Then he bought the Buick. It was a 2006 Lucerne, pearl white, low miles. He got it from a 93-year-old man who kept it immaculate, garage stored, waxed twice a year, still had the original floor mats. He called it the Q-tip car, referring to the color of the car and also to the color of the hair of the person that would drive a car like this. The 93-year-old man who owned it before him was a Q-tip. But Ray was thrilled with the Q-tip car. Said it felt like driving a white cloud. But something changed. The first time I noticed, we were pulling out of the quick trip. Ray hesitated at the exit like he couldn't judge the speed of oncoming traffic. He used to thread that needle without blinking. Now he waited until the road was empty. I joked about it, called him Grandpa Ray. Ray didn't laugh. Next week, he started using his turn signal half a block early. Then he stopped driving at night, said the headlights felt off, too dim, too bright. Couldn't decide. I asked if he was feeling okay. He said he was fine. Just getting used to the car, that's all. But it wasn't just the driving. He started talking slower, pausing mid-sentence like he was searching for words he used to know. He'd forget what day it was. Once he called me Tom. My name's not Tom. I thought maybe it was stress or something medical, but Ray swore he felt fine. Except when he was in the Buick. Then came the night I borrowed it. My truck was in the shop, and Ray offered the Lucerne. I took it to Menards. Just a quick run for caulk and screws. But the moment I sat in the driver's seat, I felt it. Like the cabin was too quiet. Not peaceful, empty, like a tomb, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. The rearview mirror showed nothing but black, even under street lights. The dash lights flickered when I passed the cemetery, and the steering, it had a mind of its own. Not jerky, just persuasive, like it wanted me to take the long way home. I parked it and walked the last mile. Ray stopped driving a week later. Said he didn't trust himself anymore. Said the Buick made him feel older than I am. He sold it to a guy in Stillwater. I never saw it again. But sometimes, when I'm out late, I'll see headlights behind me. Too bright, too close, and I swear I hear Ray's voice, slow and uncertain, whispering my name. Not Tom, mine. Story number 4. Redacted. I didn't notice the first deletion. It was a line in a spreadsheet, just a timestamp really. I thought maybe I'd misentered it. I'd been logging rainfall totals for the past 6 years, ever since the creek behind my property flooded and took out the shed. I kept meticulous records, dates, inches, barometric pressure. It was my ritual, my way of staying ahead of the next disaster. It also happened to be my job. I worked for the county office, records analyst, technically. I audit and preserve environmental data, zoning maps, infrastructure reports. When the levee fails or the road buckles, someone needs to know what was there before. I'm that someone. But the April 17th entry was gone. Not blank, gone. The cell was empty, and when I hovered over it, the formula bar didn't even flicker. I checked the backup drive. Same thing. I pulled the printed copy from the file cabinet. The page was there, but the ink had faded in a perfect rectangle, like it had been erased with intent. I didn't tell anyone. What would I say? That a single line of weather data had vanished from 3 separate formats? That the paper copy had faded in just the right spots? I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe the toner skipped. Maybe the drive glitched. Maybe I was just tired. Then the insurance letter disappeared. It was the one I'd received after the flood. The one that confirmed the payout and the clause about acts of God. I'd scanned it, saved it, printed it, filed it. I needed it for my records. But when I went to retrieve it, gone. The folder was still there, but the file had been renamed. Notice of non-event. I opened it. Blank. Just a header and a footer. No body text. No signature. I checked the printed copy. The ink had bled, like water damage, but only on that page. The rest of the file was pristine. I held it up to the light. The watermark was still visible. The content was not. I started keeping a log, not of weather, but of disappearances. I wrote it by hand, in a spiral notebook I kept in a locked drawer. I didn't digitalize it. I didn't speak it aloud. I didn't even label the cover. Just a black book with a single word on the first page. Redacted. The entries grew. May 3rd, county zoning map. Creek rerouted. Floodplain removed. May 9th, email from FEMA. No record of prior correspondence. May 12th, local news archive. Article about the flood replaced with a puff piece on spring gardening. May 18th, my own journal entry. Missing. The page was torn, but cleanly, like it had never been written on. I stopped sleeping. I started printing everything. I bought a second fireproof safe. I stopped using cloud storage. I disconnected the Wi-Fi at night. I stopped talking to neighbors. Then the man came. He said he was from the Department of Records Integrity. He wore no badge, no name tag. Just a gray windbreaker and a clipboard. He asked if I'd noticed any inconsistencies in my files. I said no. He smiled, thin. Good, he said. We're just doing a routine sweep. Some legacy data got misclassified. Nothing to worry about. He didn't ask to come in. He didn't need to. The next morning, the spiral notebook was gone. The drawer was still locked. The key was still in my ring, but the book was gone. I checked the safe. The flood photos were missing. The insurance check stub was missing. The zoning map was missing. In their place were blank sheets of paper, each stamped with a red box. Redacted. I tried to call the county office. The number was disconnected. I drove there. The building was boarded up. A sign on the door said, "Closed for renovation." No date. No contact info. I went to the library. The microfilm was gone. The newspaper archive was gone. The librarian said they'd streamlined the collection. I asked if she remembered the flood. She looked at me like I asked about a dream. There's never been a flood here, she said. The creek's barely a trickle. I walked to the creek. It was dry. Not low. It was dry. The bed was cracked and dusty. No reeds, no frogs, nothing. I went home. I opened every drawer, every file, every box. I found blank pages, red stamps, empty folders. My name was still in the mailbox. My house was still standing, but the records were gone. I sat at the desk. I opened a new notebook. I wrote the date. I wrote the time. I wrote the word redacted. Then I stopped because the pen wasn't working, because the ink was dry, because the page was already stamped. Redacted. And finally, our last story, story number 5, The Two Holes. My friend Ren and I have been carving trails through the field behind his house since the start of the month. It was a forgotten stretch. Tall dead weeds, rust-colored grass, and the occasional deer skeleton half sunk in the dirt. We called it the maze. We were 12, and the maze was ours. Every fall we made paths with sticks and stomping feet, naming each one like explorers. The first path curved like a hook. The fifth had a fork we never agreed on. By mid-October, we'd made 8. The 9th was supposed to be the last. We started it on a Tuesday after school. The air had that dry bite, and the sky hung low like wet wool. Ren wore his dad's old army jacket, flashlight clipped to his chest. I had a rake handle and a pocket knife I wasn't supposed to carry. We didn't talk much that day, just stomped and cleared, marking turns with bits of orange tape. The field felt different, though it was quieter. By Friday, the 9th path was nearly done. We carved deep into the thickest part of the field, where the weeds grew in tangled knots and the ground felt soft, like it had been disturbed. Ren said it probably was gophers. Saturday was when things shifted. We met up after lunch. Red had a weird look, tired, pale, like he hadn't slept. He said he'd been dreaming about the field, about something watching us from the weeds. I laughed. Like a scarecrow? He didn't smile. No, like something older. We walked the 9th path in silence. The wind had stopped. Even the birds were quiet. Ren kept glancing over his shoulder. "Almost done," I said, trying to sound normal. Ren nodded. One more bend. We pushed through a wall of dead stalks and stepped into a clearing. It wasn't like the others. This one was wrong. The weeds had been flattened in a perfect circle, not cut, crushed, like something heavy had sat there. The dirt was black, damp, and smelled faintly of copper. In the center was a mound. Wren crouched beside it. "It's fresh," he said. I didn't move. "Maybe a deer?" "No tracks," he said. "No blood. Just the mound." He brushed away the top layer of dirt. Something pale showed through. I stepped closer. It was fabric, a piece of canvas, stained and frayed. Wren pulled more dirt away, revealing a bundle, wrapped tight like a body. We stared at it. "I don't want to open it," I said. Wren didn't answer. He was already tugging at the knot. Inside was a doll. Not a toy store doll, not porcelain, not plastic. It was hand-stitched, from burlap, stuffed with something heavy. Its face was drawn in charcoal. 2 wide eyes, no mouth. Its arms were bound with twine. Something was carved into its chest. Wren leaned in. "It's a name." I squinted. "That's your name." He didn't react. He just stared. The back was split open. Inside something wet. Something moving. We both jumped back. The bundle twitched. Wren dropped it. I wanted to run. I didn't. The weeds around us rustled, not from the wind, from movement. Wren grabbed my arm. "We need to bury it." "No," I said. "We need to leave." But he was already scooping dirt, fast and frantic. I helped. Hands shaking, we covered the doll, packed the mound tight. The rustling stopped. We didn't speak on the walk back, just followed the 9th path in silence. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing the doll, the eyes, the name. Sunday morning, Wren called me. His voice was low, like he was underwater. "I think it's still out there," he said. I didn't ask how he knew. I just said, "I know." We didn't go back, not for days. But 9 days before Halloween, Wren showed up at my door. He looked normal again, almost. "We should check it," he said. "Make sure it's still buried." I didn't want to, but I owed him. We walked the 9th path at dusk. The weeds were taller. The wind had stopped. The clearing was there. But the mound was gone. In its place was a hole. Wren didn't speak. He just stared. I stepped closer. Inside the hole was a second bundle, smaller, wrapped in canvas, no twine. I pulled it out. The doll was stitched with my name. Wren didn't flinch. "It's yours now," he said. We buried it together. Packed the dirt tight. Marked the spot with a broken rake handle. We never spoke of it again. And we abandoned the paths in the field behind Wren's house. Well, that wraps it up for tonight's collection of scary stories. I'm your host, Dave. Thanks for hanging in there. And until next time, be well.